There's a huge taboo around it. And because there is a taboo, there was this body positivity thing going, oh my God, you're beautiful like this. You're not. You have a health condition. When you are obese, it is a health condition. When I almost died the first time in 2012 with the blood disease, a common cold would have killed me. And I was not even allowed to go to a bathroom without help.
If I am really skinny, it means I'm deeply unhappy. Yet society thinks that I'm at my happiest because I'm really skinny. And I know a lot of people who say things like that. When they're really skinny, it's because they feel really depressed.
If for you having a clean almond milk makes no difference, do that and then reserve your naughtiness for a cocktail later.
Yes.
Don't waste it on the matcha.
I love an oat milk matcha though. Almond milk matcha just tastes disgusting. Hey everyone, and welcome back to A Millennial Mind, the podcast where I invite experts to challenge the way we think and maybe even change our minds in the process. Today, I'm sitting down with Yalda Alaoui, a certified health coach, founder of Eat, Burn, Sleep, and someone who's helped thousands of people transform their relationship with food, not through restriction, but through understanding. She's been featured in Forbes, Vogue, and The Times, and her journey into wellness began after being diagnosed with 2 autoimmune conditions. That experience changed her life, and now she's changing others. In this episode, Yalda is here to change my mind on a belief that so many of us have been conditioned to accept, that the key to weight loss is counting calories. We'll unpack why this method, though popular, isn't always healthy, and how it can quietly damage our mental well-being and our relationships, and what more sustainable alternatives there are. Because when weight loss becomes a numbers game, we often lose more than just weight. We lose joy, connection, and trust in our own bodies. So if you've ever felt guilty after eating, over-obsessed over macros, or found yourself skipping dinners with friends to stay on track, this episode is for you. And before we jump in, a quick reminder that only 20% of you who listen to this podcast are subscribed. So if you want more real conversations like this, hit that follow button, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone who really needs to hear it. Now, it's time to change our minds. Yalda, welcome to A Millennial Mind.
Thank you for having me. Such a pleasure being here.
I'm so excited to get into this conversation because this is a topic that I actually don't know much about, but one that I am told so much about. And I really want to challenge you today around why calorie counting isn't the best way to lose weight. The reason why I actually want to talk about this is because my whole life, from the time I was 16 to the point right now, all I see on a menu is calories. And all I've been told is calories in versus calories out. And you're here to change my mind on why that isn't the case.
I would love to change your mind. Life is not black nor white. It's always about shades of gray. So my advice on the Eat, Burn, Sleep platform is always evolving. Everything I say, I tell people, hold on, I might change my mind tomorrow. So when I started my journey, so I'm the first person who came up with an anti-inflammatory lifestyle platform, launched in 2019, on the back of a personal story where I was very ill and doctors couldn't fix me. My background is actually finance. I'm a nerd, and I thought I'm going to fix this. So I really dived in deep into research. So I'm someone who comes from a place of a patient. So hacks, trends, none of this works when you're actually ill. What works is what supports your immune system. For it to go back into homeostasis, which is basically regulation and healing. So with that in mind, I have learned that you can bring every statement needs nuancing.
Yes.
Every statement needs, but the problem with social media and the problem with our world today is we love extreme statements. People want to know, is this good or bad for you?
Yes.
Yalda, is bread good or is bread bad for you? Well, it depends. What are we talking about? Are we talking about a burger bun from McDonald's that's highly processed with lots of additives? Or are you talking to me about a local bread made with local wheat and maybe 3 ingredients in it? Wheat, water, and salt. What are we talking about? So it's never black nor white. And when it comes to calories, the way to lose weight is far more complex than calories in and calories out.
Really?
Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job.
Really? So why has calorie counting been the go-to strategy for weight loss for so many years? Because that's when you tell people that you want to lose weight, they just say stop eating as much.
Okay, because we love simplification. I'll give you a little bit of background of when I understood that calories didn't mean that much. When I was really ill with ulcerative colitis, I started developing the lifestyle that I share now. And it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. And in my food, I would use a lot of olive oil. And fat is 9 calories per gram.
Mm-hmm.
Olive oil, in the amounts that I was using, should have made me gain weight because I was far exceeding my calorie intake. Yet I was not gaining weight, and I was about 6 kilos, a stone lighter than I am now. And I remember thinking, well, these calories, it doesn't mean anything, because if it worked, if it was 100% accurate, this olive oil would have made me gain weight. And it didn't. So I started looking into how calories had been created.
Okay.
So in the 19th century, we wanted to understand what energy was in food. And what we did is we took the foods, we burned them, and energy came out of the burning process and was heating water. This is called the calorimeter. And we started attributing calories, attributing an energy value, but it was burning, and oil burns for a long time.
Wow.
Okay. And I realized very quickly that sugar made me gain weight far more than olive oil. So I thought, okay, there is something here, because carbohydrates are only 4 calories per gram. Fat, 9 calories per gram. Protein, 4 calories. Alcohol, 7. And I quickly understood that fat did not make me fat, sugar did.
Oh my God.
At the end of the 19th century, the scientists refined the calorie counting. So at the beginning, it was just how much it burned. And then what was called the Atwater method started attributing a number of calories per type of micronutrients, which I've just described right now, and trying to adapt it a little bit on how the human body would consume it. But you know what? Calories on your body and on my body, the same food will not have quite the same effect. And why that is? Because we have different gut bacteria, because we have different hormones, because we haven't slept the same way, because we haven't chewed the food the same way. And we can go through all the things that impact weight loss.
Okay, well, this is what I really don't understand. So I want to touch upon the first thing that you said. Olive oil in your body didn't make you put on as much weight as sugar. Mm-hmm. For someone listening to this thinking that doesn't make any sense scientifically, and by the way, I absolutely love your explanation of how we measure calories. I've never ever thought about it. Who told me that this olive oil is 150 calories per teaspoon, and who told me this apple is 50 calories per apple? How on earth do you measure that? So that's fascinating that you just told me that. But someone who's listening at home, right? 150 calories in olive oil is 150 calories in olive oil. Whether you have 150 calories in olive oil or 150 calories in rapeseed oil or sunflower oil, surely there's no difference.
Yes, there is.
Why?
Because olive oil is anti-inflammatory. Obesity is an inflammatory condition. Olive oil has oleic acid. It has omega-9. It is very, very potent. It's a super healing food, olive oil. So we know today that the cause for obesity, there's been a study conducted on 5,000 pairs of obese twins by Tim Spector. Mm-hmm. We know that it lies in gut health. We also know that obesity is an inflammatory disease. And with that, I'm so keen on people recognizing that and stop making people who are obese feel bad. There's a huge taboo around it. And because there is a taboo, there was this body positivity thing going, oh my God, you're beautiful like this. You're not. You have a health condition. When you are obese, it is a health condition. It's not very nice to tell people they're doing great. They have a health condition. Is it their fault? No, it's not. The food around us has changed, completely changed. And that is linked to the rise in obesity everywhere in the world.
When you say it's anti-inflammatory, what does that mean? Because this is a buzzword that people are throwing around, but I have no idea what that means.
I'm so happy that it has become a buzzword because I was one of the first people talking about inflammation. I'll give you a little bit of background. I had these two autoimmune conditions, and I have a very inquisitive mind. I wanted to understand what caused it. And doctors are the opposite spectrum of social media. Doctors never give you a black or white answer unless so many studies back it.
Okay.
And even if there are a lot of studies, we know that there is bias in studies. Who financed the study? Who conducted the study? Who is analyzing the results? There is so much bias. Placebo effect accounts for 30%. Then there was a study conducted to telling people, we are giving you a placebo, and it still worked. So actually, placebo effect was shown to account for 50%.
Wow.
Okay. That's how much bias there is in study. I have bias, you have bias, we all have bias. With my work, I try all the time. I'm like, hold on, Yalda, you have bias. I try to reduce it. I know I have it. It's a human. We are subjective because we are subjects. We're not objects.
Yes.
So by definition, we are all subjective. Doctors try to be as objective as they can. And I was trying to understand why I had these two illnesses that medication couldn't fix. Medication didn't work on me. I was on steroids, immunosuppressants, biological drugs, which are effectively cancer drugs. Nothing worked. I was still being kept alive with blood transfusions. My children were 2 and 4. I was in a desperate place. So with this super inquisitive mind, one day I realized that my doctors were both checking, my hematologist and my gastroenterologist were both looking at my inflammatory markers.
Right.
And I said, hold on, is this the thing that we know for sure is in common between my two conditions? And my Dr. Nicola Cooper, my hematologist, Hammersmith Hospital, October 2012, looks at me and goes, yes, I guess you can say so. And I thought, okay, I'm going to fix my inflammation markers.
Wow.
And I started deep diving into the world of inflammation back in 2012. So inflammation is a normal immune system response. It is a defense mechanism. If you catch a virus and your body doesn't have fever, you are in danger because your body is not defending itself.
Wow.
That's why, for example, if I have a virus, I don't kill the fever entirely. I monitor it so it doesn't go too high, because otherwise it can damage the brain, and I would do that with my children. But you want to let the fever run a little bit because it's an inflammatory response and your body is fighting this virus. Chronic inflammation is when we have low-level inflammation over a sustained period of time. So the body is defending itself a little bit every day. It's not like you catch a virus and it's fighting and then it goes back to a non-inflamed state.
Okay.
Chronic inflammation is when the body is seeing some triggers and is kind of fighting them every day. That leads to immune system dysregulation. And that can lead to gene expression. And in my case, there is autoimmunity in my family. That gene got expressed. If you have PCOS, it can express it. If you have depression, it can express it. If you have obesity, it can express it. If you have cancer, heart attacks, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, every single non-communicable disease, which is a disease you cannot catch, is linked to a dysregulation of the immune system and to chronic inflammation.
Well, how do I know I've got chronic inflammation?
That's a question everyone asks all the time.
And you're here to tell us today.
I'm here to tell you today that, again, it's a disappointing answer. It's not black nor white. There's not a single test that can give you that because we see elevated inflammation markers like ESR, CRP, if we are quite inflamed.
Okay.
Low-level inflammation, the test might not pick up on it. Even when you are very inflamed, if let's say you have a disease and it is expressing itself like a chronic issue, you might have symptoms, yet not that high inflammatory markers. That happened to me, where I said to my doctor, I don't understand. Like, I'm really flaring. Why are my inflammation markers not so high? And they said, well, we use it as a measure, but it's not the most accurate. So people need to understand that in the world of health, it is a guessing game. What we all do, naturopaths, nutritionists, doctors, is we proceed by elimination. We try and eliminate scenarios, or scenarii, if we want to be correct in Latin, to try and pinpoint what is the problem. So when you go to the doctor and you say, I have this, I have this, I have that, what they want to do is rule out things. Okay, it's not that, and we start narrowing. And then to be able to give a diagnosis, you need to tick certain boxes. So for every disease, there's a number of boxes. But then no two people have the same expression of the disease. And humans want to know, is it like this? Is it good or is it bad? Is it on or is it off? It's not, it's shades of gray. So how do you measure inflammation? Coming back to your question, I've written articles on my website for people to read. You go for the signs. I'll give you an example. Do you do yoga?
No.
If you do yoga or if you stretch, you'll notice there are days you can touch your toes.
Yes.
And another day, your hands go to your knees.
Yes, correct. I can do that, yeah.
So some days you're not as flexible as others. Those days you might be slightly more inflamed.
Oh.
Brain fog. There are days where your brain is super sharp.
Yes.
And others where you have a little bit of this fog. The fog is neuroinflammation. That's a sign of chronic inflammation. You're wearing rings right now. Did you notice that some days you struggle to remove them?
Yes.
But other days you don't?
Yeah.
So chronic inflammation leads to water retention, can lead to water retention. And the days where you can't remove the rings or your face is a bit puffy and you feel you need a lymphatic drainage might be because you have inflammation. So coming back to calories, people who go for a solely calorie approach have a tendency to ignore other things that are very important for weight loss and for gut health. Recently, I had a lady reach out to me on Instagram. I went to Weight Watchers. I lost a lot of weight, but I don't understand. I have crazy eczema since.
Ah.
And I said to her, did you replace a lot of the full fat foods with low fat, which have more emulsifiers, which are linked to gut inflammation and to obesity in the medium and long term? And she goes, yes. I said, okay, we need to clean your diet up. Your gut flora is probably impaired from all these ultra-processed foods that are low calorie. So there's been many studies conducted on mice. We put 2 groups of mice with the exact same number of calories on the same diet every day. And one group was given water with emulsifiers, which are used by the food industry widely, and particularly with the low-fat foods, so things bind and feel yummy, and thickeners as well, so it feels thicker and fuller, okay? So we put these emulsifiers, thickeners in the water for the test ones. They started expanding. They had more metabolic disorder, obesity, weight gain. These things are linked to obesity. So if you are somebody who's eating whole foods,
yes,
but using olive oil, using things that are unprocessed at 2,000 calories a day, versus you're the same person and you're going to go on the lower calorie diet, in the short term, you will see that weight loss. Particularly if you can, now we're going to talk about blood sugar regulation in a minute, but saying you eat the same groups of food, carbohydrates, protein, and you keep it the same, but you lower the calories in those, but you switch to foods that have more of these things, you will end up regaining the weight and more later. And that study actually of Tim Spector shows that a lot of the twins that had been on diets ended up being fatter in the long run.
No way.
So we link that to gut flora. We are so still in the early days of understanding the gut. I had this top microbiologist called Professor Glenn Gibson, who came on my podcast. I haven't released the episode yet. Maybe it'll be released when this comes out. And we were talking about that. The gut is so complex. early in understanding it. So calories from a gut flora standpoint are flawed measure because of what I've just described. But then coming back to the olive oil, they're also a flawed measure when it comes to blood sugar regulation. Because how do we lose weight? We lose weight, we lose fat. I'm not going to talk about muscles.
Yeah.
We're talking about healthier body composition. We lose fat when the body goes into fat burning mode.
Okay.
And for that, it needs to tap into our fat reserves rather than our blood sugars for sugar and energy.
Okay.
So the cells need energy, and they're going to go and get that glucose either from the blood sugar or from the muscles, actually. Glycogen is stored in the muscles, or from our fat reserves. When we have foods that spike the blood sugar levels, for example, something sugary. But that, let's say you have a sweet food here, sugary, versus something with olive oil. Okay. Let's say a piece of chicken with bathed in olive oil. That's going to be higher in calories than the sugar.
Yes.
But the sugar will elevate your blood sugar levels.
Okay.
So the body is using those sugars in the bloods for energy instead of tapping into your fat stores. When you eat something that's a lower GI food, lower glycemic index, your body actually taps into your fat reserves for energy, so you start burning them off.
Wow, this is so interesting. I just drew a diagram here in front of me to make me understand it, and I really do get it. But Yalda, the argument isn't are calories the best way to, improve your health. The argument is, are calories the best way, counting calories the best way to lose weight? Now, in the short term, you gave me this study on the twins, right? In the short term, if you and I were to go on a diet, right? I know we've got different bodies, different metabolisms, but let's just say in 1 month, if I was eating a lower calorie diet with all of these additional emulsifiers and gums and all these things that are in all our food, and you were eating a whole food diet, are you telling me that if I kept on that diet, I would put on weight eventually? Or is it the fact that you're more likely to eat sugary foods?
So that's a great question. The other thing to mention is how you impact your metabolism.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example, a personal example. I wanted to take a little break, and I went to one of these Austrian spa retreats where they starve you. And I came and I said, I don't want to be starved. I always go and I give my eat, burn, sleep meal thing. And they agreed on the ingredients. We followed my green food lists, but they put me on 800 calories a day, which was way too low for me. I can't function off that. I need minimum 1400 within the foods that I eat and clean and all of that.
Okay.
I lost 5 kilos in 10 days.
Oh my gosh.
My weight dropped. Okay. But then if you look at the next 4 months, I gained 2 more kilos than when I arrived. And the graph, I can show it to you. And I'm still fixing my metabolism from that. And why did this happen? Because I told myself off. I was like, Yalda, stop always fighting wherever you go. They've done an effort. But really, I should have asked for a minimum of 1,200 calories because otherwise it impacts the metabolism. Thyroid function gets impacted. I knew this. And I thought to myself, leave other professionals take care of you for once. Because I'm always looking after people. I thought, come on, start with, just let's be taken care of. I actually felt really unwell. And it's completely backfired, and everything I know was proven. So even I make mistakes.
Right.
Okay. I'll give you another example. I coach people privately, and I also have a lot of people, thousands of people on eatburnsleep.com on the lifestyle. Yesterday, I was doing a live on Instagram about mental health and talking about the fact that your gut flora is really linked to your mental health. Depression is an inflammatory issue. I've written a 28 pages scientific paper when I was at nutrition school. And one of the people who were on the live on Instagram start talking to someone else. I love it when people start interacting. And she goes, this thing has completely changed my life. I'm eating more. I used to have only 2 meals a day. I'm eating more and I've lost weight.
How is that possible though?
Well, we're going to work together. And I've done this with many people. Why? So privately, I coached a lady. I'm not going to disclose her name because she wanted to stay confidential, but she's a high-profile person who came to me with 2 issues, prediabetes and cholesterol.
Okay.
She didn't really want to lose weight, okay? She had maybe another extra couple of kilos, but her aim was not that. Her aim was, the doctor was like, you're going to have to start taking statins and you're going to have to start taking metformin. And she said, can you give me 2 months of changing my lifestyle? He said, yes. She came to me. I fast-tracked her because I have a wait list. I knew her personally, like socially. Fast-tracked her, starts working immediately. In 8 weeks, we turned around her bloods. Prediabetes gone. Cholesterol levels normal, and weight loss when I actually made her eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and an afternoon snack. How did I do this? Cholesterol is linked to inflammation. I put her on the eat, burn, sleep lifestyle, but I refined it to suit cholesterol regulation and to suit blood sugar regulation. So even on the online platform, I have a section for cholesterol. Like, people can do this. And the results were there. And she said to me, it's crazy, I eat more than before. I said to her, yes. I'm not going to say her name. Yes, but this is what we did in terms of mechanisms. You had this and this and that for breakfast, which filled you so you didn't have the drop. And we didn't make your pancreas work. So you were full until lunch. Then I didn't let you go all the way to dinner, so you don't have the drop in blood sugar levels, and then you end up having something sweet or whatever is there, and then your pancreas is working again, and insulin is rising, and you're starting to have prediabetes, which means insulin resistance, meaning the body is not sensitive to insulin, which is needed. You need to lower the blood sugar levels. And I said, so I gave you this clean, low GI snack every day, so we would keep you in that zone. I said, so your body has been tapping into your fat reserves as well. That's why.
I mean, when you're telling me this, it all sounds very good and simple, trust me. But the difficulty is how does somebody, watching or listening to this at home understand, am I eating the right foods? I want to lose weight. I want to get rid of, my anti-inflammatory lifestyle if they know that they've got one. And I want to be able to do something about it now. I don't want to be following a rigid plan. Because one of the things I think that really people struggle with calorie counting is the impact it has on your friends and your family who eat with you, right? We've all been at dinner when someone's like, oh, sorry, I can't eat that. How many calories has that got? And it starts to make the other person feel very uncomfortable. But I can imagine if someone was following a strict meal plan, that would also have an impact on their relationships.
I couldn't agree more. You see, we agree. We should be disagreeing, but we are agreeing here.
I love it.
So interestingly, my partner, one of the first things he said to me, he said, oh my God, you eat. I said,
really?
It impacts relationships.
Yes.
Because you eat, you love food. I said, yeah, I love food because I love life. I'm a foodie. I love food. And that's why I created all these recipes, because the reason why I created this method was to heal myself. That's the first reason. And the second one is to be able to enjoy food again and enjoy treats. I remember a day, it was my birthday. We took this table in a beautiful private club with my ex-husband. All our friends are there. It's my birthday party. I couldn't drink a glass of champagne because I had terrible cramps. I remember thinking, I'm in my early 30s and I can't have a glass of champagne for my birthday. This is not a way to live. I've got to fix this. This is a desperate place.
Wow.
So my method allows to go to restaurants, allows flexibility, allows the odd glass of champagne. And I'm someone who can't stand obsessiveness and extremes. And that's why I'm so counter-trend.
But how? What is your method then?
So at the beginning, when I launched it, I just had food lists. I was like, you can 80% of the time you eat the green, and 3 times a week you have the orange, and then twice a week you have the red.
Okay.
And because I thought everyone loved flexibility like me. Like, I hate people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah.
So I thought people are going to be like me. They're going to go to restaurants and order using but actually they wanted a bit more support and love. And so then I started creating all these menus, and they have the weekly menu and all of that. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
But with flexibility, as long as you're following. So what I do is I give people how to structure a plate. I'm like, this much protein, this is the protein list. This much vegetables, this is the vegetable list. This much good carbs, that's the good carbs list. This much fat, and roughly when you go out, you order like this. But I always tell the number one thing is do not over obsess. If they put a bit of sugar in it, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything.
Right.
You know, if you order something and there's a bit of sugar in it, it's not going to make your blood sugar levels go anywhere. If you order pasta, yes. But if you order fish and veggies, and that's not going to impact your blood sugar levels like if you're ordering a chocolate muffin.
Wait, so I shouldn't be eating pasta if I want to have an anti-inflammatory diet?
You are jumping into conclusions again. On my thing, you can eat anything.
God. I've definitely got the worst diet then. Diet Coke and pasta is my favorite thing.
We're going to talk about Diet Coke in a minute. You can eat anything. It's a question of how much, what you eat with it. So the way I structured it is for ease, because to give you an example, I could never follow a diet to lose weight, ever. I put my hand up.
Right.
I was never able to follow a diet to lose weight because I'm not vain enough. Never. I love food more.
Yeah, okay. I could never, yeah.
But for health purposes, I still stick to this lifestyle with ebb and flow because it allows me to have no brain fog, to be a good person, to not have a tummy ache, to not be bloated, to be happier, to enjoy every day.
So true.
You know, I always think, hold on, one day, hopefully, I will be old. Hopefully, one day I will be a very old lady.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste one day of this age because I'm feeling rubbish because of what I've eaten. That's
so
stupid.
True. I think the problem is now, in the 2000s, heroin chic was very in. And we're seeing everybody wanting to just be so skinny right now, which is why we're seeing a huge rise in Ozempic and Mounjaro. And one of the really interesting things actually is, you know how you said you can't stick to a diet? I've always had a very fast metabolism. But a couple of years ago, I lost a lot of weight. When I was more than this, when I was in between my podcast and my corporate job, but I also had some other issues going on. And what's really interesting is nothing will make me lose weight unless I am deeply, deeply, deeply unhappy. And if I am really skinny, it means I'm deeply unhappy. Yet society thinks that I'm at my happiest because I'm really skinny. And I know a lot of people who say things like that when they're really skinny, it's because they feel really depressed. But society has made us think that the less you are, the skinnier you are, the more bones that we can see, the more attractive you are. For women, by the way, not men.
You know, I have two things that changed my perspective. I was definitely like this before motherhood and before having these issues. So I'm 46. I was born in October 78. And in my 20s, it was all about being skinny.
Yeah.
I'm a size 10, a size 6 US. I have muscles. I'm never going to have hips like this. I'm a 27 hip. It doesn't matter how much I lose weight. Those hips are there. Okay?
Yes.
I've been very sick where I was very skinny. And I can tell you the hips were the same size and the jeans were the same size. I was not going to a size 0. But when I became a mom, during the pregnancy, I started gaining weight, okay? Boobs, hips, everything. I felt, wow. I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling so feminine.
Yes.
My body's producing a baby. I started seeing my body as more than how do the clothes look like. That was the first shift in perspective. It was a good reminder. The second and most drastic one was when I almost died the first time in 2012. And with the blood disease, my hemoglobin went down to 4.7. For anyone in the medical field, they will know that it's a very, very serious place. You can die at any time of heart attack, of clot, of common cold would have killed me. And I was not even allowed to go to a bathroom without help. So, sorry to be graphic, but nurses would bring a little bowl when I needed to pee under me. And if I needed more, they would take me to the bathroom. I was in hospital and I was thinking, if I can use my body again one day, I want to go walking, I want to go hiking, I'm going to go to the gym, I want to play tennis again, I want to go horse riding. I started, because I had FOMO, I started, ask anybody in a wheelchair. Okay, we take what we have for granted and we start getting hung up on small details and becoming very unkind to ourselves. So I lost a lot of weight because I was very ill. And I remember that around that time, one day, I think it was maybe 2013 or 14, I don't remember exactly, I was invited to a fashion show. It was London Fashion Week. It was Matthew Williamson's show. I still remember. I had a little bit of anxiety attack because all the people, all the models walking, all I saw was people who were sick because of what had happened to me and my relationship with my body when I lost too much weight. I didn't see them as beautiful, gorgeous, wearing clothes. I was like, like their body fat, they're not looking well. And I had a bad time in my head. You know, fashion shows are very quick. It's like over in less than half an hour. And I remember coming out going, oh my God, that's horrible. I don't want to go again. If this is fashion, I don't want to go. It makes me, they were not healthy. So I've completely changed my perspective on what health looks like because of the adversity I went through. Yeah. And many people who go through cancer, you know, I have people who tell me it was the hardest thing, but also the best thing because I'm so grateful for what I have. I'm so grateful for my body that works. I'm so grateful that I can wake up every day. I'm so grateful that now when I eat food, it comes out digested normal. I'm so grateful for all these little miracles that happen physiologically every single day in my body.
Yeah.
And the relationship with food and image out there. I mean, I see a lot of people on Ozempic.
Yeah.
I think the average is in the UK, 1 in every 10 women are on it.
No. 1 in every 10?
That's what I heard. I haven't double checked, so, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but a huge number of people are on it. And because my job is to observe people, I don't pick up every time someone is on it, but oftentimes I can pick up.
What are the telltale signs if someone's on Ozempic?
You know, when people lose weight in a healthy manner, you get this glow. You get a glow and like your pheromones change because I think as humans, we look for someone fertile, i.e. healthy. We can smell health. You know, when you meet a man and you don't fancy him because the smell is wrong, it's also like a gene compatibility health thing. And they don't have this look of health. They look smaller, but they don't look yummier.
Yes.
You don't want to bite them. You know, they don't look more attractive. When someone actually exercises every day, there's this glow in their skin, in the eye, when someone cleans up their diet. So, you know, I remember coaching a man privately, and he said to me in his testimonials, everyone was telling me I'm glowing, and no one's ever told me that before.
I love that.
And this is someone who had fatty liver, whose doctor had given him Ozempic. This is years ago, so before it became common. And his wife, who followed my work, said, no, please give a chance to Yalda.
What's wrong with taking Ozempic and Mounjaro, though? What are the risks?
So there are many risks when it comes to gallbladder health, to pancreatic health. And the biggest risk is you have to take it for the rest of your life for it to be for you to keep the weight off. Most people who stop regain it. That's the first thing. That's the biggest problem. So if you, listen, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not a doctor. But any medication with side effects, the side effects will become worse if you take it for longer. The problem for Ozempic, if there was a drug that actually helped obese people come back into a state of homeostasis. So the problem with obesity is gut bacteria is impaired. So even the hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which are produced in the gut, get disrupted. So where someone who's obese is not going to feel satiety the way I do or you do. That's why, you know, we really need to remove the blame. Yes. I have so much empathy for people who are obese. I help many of them. But it is possible to come out of this vicious cycle. I have witnessed it. I've helped lots of people who are obese improve their gut health, lower inflammation, lose tons of weight over time and keep it off.
I just want to ask you on that because you just said, you know, you have a lot of empathy for them. And this is not my opinion. I just want to emphasize this. But you do see a lot of people commenting on people's stuff online and saying, well, it's your responsibility. You shouldn't have eaten so much. You should have exercised more. You were eating all this junk food. People put a lot of the blame on the individual as to why they're obese. What's the other side of that? Are some people just born and they're going to be obese anyway, regardless of what they eat?
So if you look at 100 years ago, it was quite hard to be obese.
Right.
Because the food was different around us. I have empathy because I take care of people. So I have empathy with people with mental health issues. Yes. Someone with a mental health issue, the family generally is a bit less understanding than if they had cancer.
100%.
And I've had this conversation. I'm like, please treat it like a disease. Yeah. If that person had cancer, you wouldn't be talking like that. Just understand their processes, there's neuroinflammation going on. There are processes that are going on that are impacting what this person is saying. And I understand that it can be really annoying and unbearable, but if someone's being diagnosed with bipolar, with schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, whatever it is, or neurodiversity, autism, we have to bring a lot of empathy because it is a health condition. Obesity is a health condition. It's not like suddenly a third of the population is completely irresponsible. The food has changed around us. Since refrigeration was introduced, there's less bacteria. Emulsifiers, thickeners are used in so many foods. There's less nutrients in food than there were 50 years ago. There's far more gluten, for example, in bread. Dairy has changed. It used to be A2 type milk. Now it's A1 in the majority. Everything has changed, the way we eat. So, for example, that's why we're going to coming back to calories. If you eat the same food on your own or in company, it's been shown that people who share meals with company have a less increase in their blood sugar levels with the same food.
No.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Humans are social beings. Do you remember how distressed we became during lockdown?
Yes. So
us, without the group, we don't survive. A lot of animals, a polar bear, I guess, survives without the group. Elephants need the group. Humans need the group. Wolves need the group. Geese need the group.
Wow.
We can't survive without the group. So you know how rejection can be crippling.
Yes.
I remember seeing teenage girls during lockdown. Some friends of mine had teenage girls. And there was an argument over Instagram and someone unfollowed someone. And this girl, she was having a panic attack like she was dying. And I was explaining, I said, listen, this is just your instinct. Because when we were cavemen, if the group had rejected you, you could literally die. Today, the group, it's not the case anymore. Your home is safe.
Yes.
You have access to food. Your parents are here. It's all good.
But then why does it impact our microbiome and why does it impact our blood sugars so much if we're away from the caveman days? So if we can regulate our minds to think, okay, well, if I'm having dinner by myself, I mean, you're going to laugh. Yesterday, me and my partner, we were so tired. I was so done with talking. Sometimes I know it's maybe difficult to believe. I talk so much and I just think, I don't want to talk to anyone anymore and I just want to be silent. So we met at Tortilla. We got our dinner and I said, I don't want to talk today. Can we just watch some TV on your phone? And we did. So we put the phone there and we ate and we watched the TV on the phone. Now that's unusual. That doesn't happen a lot. But I do feel like we either eat dinner at our desk, maybe once or twice in the week, we eat dinner whilst we're talking to each other and the rest of the time is in front of the TV because I'm so tired.
Okay, so let's break this down slowly. So first, why do why do blood sugars go up? When we are with the group, we produce a little bit of oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So that reduces cortisol. When cortisol is more elevated, that leads to more blood sugar elevation. Oh. So when we are with people, and so in Europe, Italy, France, there's always people around the table. Yeah. So there was a village in the US, I forgot the name, where there were Italian immigrants where 3 generations lived in the same house, the grandparents, parents, and kids, and they had completely different stats to the locals in terms of cardiovascular disease, obesity, all the big markers, cancer, and all of that. Next generation, when they started making money, they all had their home with their backyards, and all their stats matched the US population. And one of the reasons is because they were sharing every meal and they were all together.
Wow.
So loneliness is making us fat.
No.
It's
But hold on. My oxytocin goes up when I watch Netflix and I eat my dinner.
So
surely that's the same.
So with my children, when we have meals, we often on holidays, because 3 meals every day, there's only so much you can talk. I ask that we bring books. And actually, in many restaurants, waiters were like, it's the first time I see kids with a book. But I take my book. I set the tone. The reason for that is when you read, when you look at your screens, that is a little stressful. We know that, the blue light, so many things, okay? When we read, we calm down. And when the food comes, I always say to them, boys, we're together all the time. So let's just focus on the food, chew it well. And chewing very well impacts weight as well, because it impacts gut health. And then we talk again. But watching a screen is about the worst thing you can do.
I knew you were going to tell me off. Now you're going to tell me off for something else. So you just said chewing is one of the most important things. I probably eat my dinner in a third of the time that Nico, my partner, eats it in. He is a very mindful eater. So he eats very slowly. He doesn't drink any water before his meal. And if he wants to drink something, he'll drink it before, half an hour before. He's honestly so annoying. He's like the picture perfect person to do everything. And I'm the complete opposite. I will be like slurping on a Diet Coke or a kombucha or something fizzy, something sparkling, whilst eating my food, which I love to eat quickly, so quickly that I actually have a special jumper that I wear so that if I drop food on it, I don't mind. Right? And that's the truth. And he puts a blanket down for me on our floor because he's like, you're going to drop it everywhere. Because I just love to eat quickly. I feel free. So if I ate the same amount of food, not different amounts, but if I ate a bowl of pasta, your favorite high blood sugar meal, a bowl of pasta in 20 minutes, if I ate like a mouse, and I ate a bowl of pasta in 4 minutes, which is my average amount, would I put on different weight? And would that calorie intake be different in my body? And would I digest it differently? What would that look like?
So you're obviously a very slim person, so it might impact you in different ways. So gut flora impacts basically every single system in our body. So you might not gain weight from it, but maybe you'll have more PMS, maybe, it can be anything. So I don't have the exact answer. We'd have to measure and compare and, right. you could become a case study. But yes. On the whole, when you look at food and you start salivating, 10% of the enzymes are produced in the mouth. So if you're looking at your phone, you're not salivating, you're missing enzymes at the mouth level. And then the small intestine produces, so then you produce, of course, enzymes also at the stomach level, acid to break down the protein, and then more enzymes in the small intestine. Connecting to food sends the signal to the brain, which sends the signal to the digestive system. When you eat slower, you give more time for these processes to happen. When you masticate, you're putting more enzymes in the food, so it will be digested better. So today we're taking the angle of calories and weight loss, but it impacts what I mean by all the systems is the central nervous system, the digestive system, the cardiovascular system, the skeletal system, and all the systems are linked. I'll give you an example. The vagus nerve links the spine to the gastrointestinal tract. Do you ever get back pain?
Yes.
Did you notice that when you're bloated, you get more back pain?
Yes.
Voila.
This is so fascinating. And I really want to talk to you about bloating, actually, because while we're talking about how calories aren't everything, I'm actually on your side on something. The reason I actually asked you to come on my podcast is because I started sharing on my Instagram how I was noticing that I was very bloated and very puffy. I wouldn't say necessarily like put on weight. I don't measure myself in terms of kilograms, but I was noticing that I wasn't as lean as I normally was when I was exercising more than I was normally exercising. Now, some people said, oh, it's because you're going to Barry's at 6 a.m. in the morning and your cortisol is high and you're spiking it, which could be the case. However, I have done that my whole life and I've never really seen a difference. The difference that I noticed in my body was that I was drinking oat milk matchas every single day. And not just one oat milk matcha, 2. And not using oat milk at home, but going outside to buy it. Now, when you buy your oat milk outside, they usually use Oatly or some kind of barista milk. And I noticed that I had started putting on weight. And this is what is so interesting is that I would say that I eat loads of junk food in terms of chocolate and crisps and sugar. And I've never, ever seen myself feel as bloated as I did when I was having 2 matcha lattes a day. Why is that?
So it could have been the combinations of berry and the oat milk. I'm all about damage limitation. It's about how much you get away with, because I'm naughty like that. I'm always like, okay, how much do I get away with? And I stay in remission and everything stays well. So I don't like enjoy being healthy for the sake of ticking boxes and being over obsessive. I do it so I can continue having a great life.
Yes.
And do all the things I want to do. Berries is definitely inflammatory.
No, don't tell me that.
Let me finish. I worked with sportsmen, okay? Intense exercise increases your cortisol levels. Cortisol can lead to chronic inflammation. When I was really sick, whenever I started getting better, I used to book in immediately my personal trainer, whom we used to call Lil David because he was short and my ex-husband was tall David. So Lil David would show up, we'd go in the square. I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I love, I'm the opposite of everything I preach, okay? And that's why I had to make those changes, because if I was a moderate person, I would have never needed eat, burn, sleep. I would have done it in the first place, okay? I've always been into health, but because I enjoy exercise, but I like pushing. I'm not someone I didn't naturally, like Pilates and yoga. I liked boxing and I liked hard things. And when I was in my 20s, I would do these things and not notice anything, because the younger you are, the less inflammation you have. Wear and tear with the years, things change. Now, if I go to a Barry's, I can get brain fog for days. I get water retention. I feel bigger afterwards. I cannot do that. Even weight training, I could not. Every time I'd book a trainer and I would do weight training, I'd end up having high cortisol. I would have digestive issues. All of this would flare. I am in the process of working on weight training in an anti-inflammatory manner, where I do a particular sequencing so it works. On my platform, I created all these workout videos, which allowed me to put muscle on. And I have, I'm quite high in muscle mass and bone mass, despite the steroids I've been on and everything, thanks to this and thanks to the diet, because inflammation also really affects bone mass and muscle mass. But coming back to what you were saying, you did an inflammatory workout, which at your age and everything, you were kind of fine with it. But then you doubled up and you added milk with tons of thickener in it, an emulsifier. And then you had 2 cups. Did you have 2 or 3?
Yeah, a day.
So maybe you hadn't slept that much, so you were slightly inflamed. Maybe you had a little bit of stress going on, so that increased in inflammation. Maybe you had eaten extra fast before. Maybe you've been on your screens more, and then you added the inflammatory workout and the oat milk that is full of these substances, and boom, your body went over the edge. So there is never one thing.
So true.
There's never one thing that causes us to be unwell. It's a cluster of factors. Oh. And that's why when I created those food lists, it was go for all the low-hanging fruit. Oh. If for you having a clean almond milk makes no difference, do that and then reserve your naughtiness for a cocktail later. Yes. Don't waste it on the matcha.
I love an oat milk matcha though.
Yeah, but you can have...
almond milk matcha just tastes disgusting.
There are healthier oat milks. I mean, oat milk, the problem is the
now.
Yeah, but the problem is the glycemic index will be higher because it's higher in carbohydrates than fat. So it's been shown that, if you have it within a meal, if you already have fat in your tummy, okay, it's better. But if you have it between, coupled with the caffeine.
In the morning, then in the afternoon or by itself.
It doesn't matter. If it's your one treat, it's fine. Yes. Even the person who came to me with fatty liver disease, I realized he loved wine, and I knew that I was not going to get him to stick to it if he didn't drink wine. I made him lose 14 kilos and have clean liver for the first time in his life with 6 glasses of wine a week.
Wow. I really, really love something that you just said. We've just identified in this conversation things that I've told you. There's probably hundreds of things that I'm doing incorrectly that I haven't told you. But, I very quickly said, I put on weight because I was having oat milk. But I'm doing berries. I eat fast. I don't sleep a lot. I would say I have a very high level of stress. My Oura ring tells me every single day that I have 4 or 5 hours of stress. I think it's broken, but it is correct probably. I don't drink enough water, and I'm always on the go. I eat my lunch on the go. I drink my coffee on the go. I have protein shakes on the go. Everything is on the go. I very rarely sit down and look at my food when I'm eating it. If I'm looking at the TV, I'm doing this. That's why the food drops all over me. If I'm working, I'm like doing this again, which is why it drops all over me. So I know that I'm not intentional. And these are such small things that I think are insignificant. But like you said, coupled together, we have no idea what makes us have an autoimmune disease or get cancer. And we can say things like, oh, Diet Coke gave me cancer. You can't say things like that because there's so many multiple things that you're doing in your diet that are bad for you. Now to also talk about another thing that I do incorrectly. How bad is Diet Coke for you? Because I love it.
So I prefer the taste of Diet Coke to real Coke.
Yeah, and Coke Zero, yeah.
Okay. And when I was really ill and would go to restaurants and everyone was having wine and I definitely could not enjoy wine, my treat was a Coke Zero Diet Coke. Okay, that was my treat. But there are many studies linking aspartame to cancer. Mm-hmm. And I was interviewed on the BBC on this, and I got grilled by the woman. I mean, I stood against her on this topic because there are studies showing that it's linked. It even has an impact on fetuses. Much better for you to have the sugar version, by my books, depending on how much you're having. So it's always a question of how much. Okay? Someone who drinks a Diet Coke or a Coke Zero or aspartame food once a week is going to be fine. If you have 6 a day, it's going to you start falling into that category of you're increasing the risk. So I like to think about, we have little toxic barrels. That's how I see it in my body. Yes. I have all these little barrels with toxicity. And if one fills up a bit, I calm down on it. So I've done a little bit too much of this, I'm going to rein it back in. And then rein it back in and rein it back in. So I'm not controlled, but I just have in the background, you know what, Yalda? Like, it's been a while since you've slept a good night from this. So now for the next week, I want you to be intentional. You're going to sleep your 7-8 hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. because those are the hours that actually repair the cells. Things like that. I'm someone who likes pushing, which is unfortunate when you have underlying health issues. So I always push and I start feeling like tired or things start giving and I rein it back in. But for someone like you, be careful. Because in my practice, whenever people come to me with a diagnosis, I start asking questions and I see a combination of factors that can have participated to the diagnosis. Do I know for sure? No. Can we tell for sure? No. Can I say that, God forbid, you're going to have something? No, but you're increasing the chances. So you just rein it back in. It's not worth watching your phone when you're eating. You don't care that much. Drop that. Look at your food. What is it you really care about? You love a Diet Coke, like 3 Diet Cokes a week? Fine, if it really gives you pleasure. So just limit the damage on the low-hanging fruit.
Yes. I think, everything you've told me, it's quite easy to implement. I just need to be a bit more intentional about it. I really want to talk to you about sleep. Does it matter if I'm controlling my calories? So I'm eating, let's just say, 1,200 calories a day, but I'm only sleeping 6-7 hours a night or 5-6 hours?
Several things happen when we sleep. First, we are in a parasympathetic state. Okay, we're lying down. When we lie down, our cortisol levels drop. So if you were to put a cortisol machine on you and you measure it when you're sitting down and then you measure it when you lie down, when you lie down, it's lower. Okay. Because it's a restful state. Parasympathetic nervous system does rest, digest, and immunity. Okay, because digestion and immunity are closely linked. So that lowers inflammation. So when we sleep well, we lower inflammation, which is linked to weight gain. Second thing that happens, it has been shown that if we sleep 6 hours versus 8 hours, our blood sugar levels are not the same eating the same foods. So there is more blood sugar elevation if you sleep less. So in an ideal world, you sleep your 8 hours a night between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. and you eat your meals with your companions because In Latin, com is with, pan is bread. Companion is the person you share bread with.
Wow, that's beautiful.
The next thing is leptin and ghrelin, that are the hunger hormones, are also regulated during sleep. Sleep regulates hormones.
Wow.
And also during sleep, we produce 80% of the human growth hormone that allows us to look young, to repair the tissues, and to burn fats. So if you were to just count calories, have little sleep, go for foods packed with thickeners and emulsifiers, not go for, gut-friendly, anti-inflammation kind of meals, the way I structure them, you're not going to have results as optimal.
But, if I go back to my time about 2 years ago when I was managing the podcast and my job, I was eating, but I was eating more junk food, by the way. But I was so skinny and I was barely sleeping and I was working so hard. And, one of the hardest things for me is I always compare myself to that level of me. And I think I was such a hustler. I was so hardworking. I pushed myself so much. And I was ill because I remember going to one of my friend's weddings and I sat there and I said, I think I'm going to faint. I think I'm going to collapse. And I was eating. It wasn't that. It was like my body, I think, was under so much stress, but I lost so much weight and I wasn't sleeping.
The problem here is you're looking at one variable. You're looking at the variable of weight, but it impacts so many things.
Yeah.
We don't see everything that's happening internally.
True.
Your body might not react with weight gain, but maybe some other things are happening. So I always tell people, let's say this is the perfect state of health, and this is, you put your hand here, is the perfect state of health, 1 foot distance, the other hand, that's the state of being diagnosed with a disease.
Yeah, so true.
You can be hovering here,
Yeah.
thinking you're great, and you have. So we don't know. It's very hard to measure. What I try and spread with people is a way of being closer to the optimal health state levels without over-obsessing, because even that is bad for you because it increases cortisol. So I always tell people it doesn't matter. Like when they are on a health journey and they go, oh my God, Yalda, I had a cheat meal. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just continue. Continue, because the good choices accumulate and play in your favor.
100%. I mean, the reason I really wanted to bring that up is I think so many people just focus on weight and say that you're healthy if you're skinny. And I went to a reformer Pilates class yesterday and there was 3 people in the room, me and 3 people. One of them was in their 60s and the other 2 were in their 50s. I found it so much harder to do these small movements, these exercises compared to these people. And it reminds me of the fact that, when people say, oh, I couldn't do that, I'm too old. But you're never too old to do anything because all of those people in the room were fitter than me. None of those people were as slim as me, but it did not mean that they were not healthier than me. It did not mean that I was healthier than them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I love going to these classes, and I have a Pilates teacher at Tri Yoga in London. She's 74 years old.
Wow.
Okay. She's amazing. I love it. She goes, I was born in the 50s. And one day she was showing us a move, and I actually go there also to be inspired.
Yeah.
Because these ladies really inspire me. So there's this lady called Sarah in the class. I thought she was mid-60s. And Christella, the teacher, asked Sarah to come and show us a move. And then she asked Sarah to disclose her age. Sarah is 87.
Wow.
Let that sink in. So people who people who have 5 kilos to lose, who are taking Ozempic now for that, and are not thinking long-term about the effect on all the organs, think of Sarah.
Yeah.
So coming back to what you said about Ozempic, if I was an obese 75-year-old woman, I think I'd probably take it. Because how long? Maybe I have another 20 years.
Right.
It's going to increase my longevity. If I'm a 25-year-old obese individual, I'm going to try and look at other solutions. And if I only have 10 pounds to lose, I'm not going anywhere close this medication.
I really think it's so important we had this discussion today because I know so many people are struggling with their weight, with the way that they look, because we're just told that less is more. Skinnier is better. And I think this conversation has shown me that your weight does not define your health, number one, but also it shouldn't define your worth, because you're worth so much more than being 6 stone and fitting into a size 0 dress. You owe it to yourself to actually support your health, support your gut, support your brain health, sleep more, eat better, and be like Sarah and be doing yoga at 87.
I couldn't agree more. I'll give you one last example of someone I've coached privately. And again, I'm not going to disclose her name because she wanted to stay anonymous. She came to me, lady in her 60s, suffering from ulcerative colitis. Very slim woman, looks amazing in pictures. I realized very quickly that she ate very little amounts. And then she was complaining about premature aging of the skin. She was complaining about hair loss. She was complaining about so many other things. And I had to explain to her, I said, a lot of women around your age only focused on calories. So they ate very little. And then when they wanted to treat themselves, they'd have sugar, candy, sweet, chocolates. Yes. And they stayed slim.
Yeah.
But fast forward all these years, serious lack of elasticity in the skin, collagen, not good. Because you need the antioxidants, you need the protein, you need all of that. And I made her shift her perspective slowly. And she started eating meals that could heal her gastrointestinal tract. We got her in remission. And the way I did it with her, I said, I'm not going to make you gain weight. I promise you. Just stay with me. Stay with me. And actually what happened is her body composition improved. She was able to exercise again. She was the same size, but she had probably better muscle mass. And so over the long term, and the other thing she was suffering from was osteoporosis. Okay, so you're slim, but you're completely messing up your bones, your bone density, your muscle density, which are very linked to longevity. So it's important to look at everything. And people who lose weight starting a healthier lifestyle, to me, weight is like one of the byproducts. There are many of them. A lot of things improve, and one of them becomes body composition and weight.
So true. I mean, this has been such an informative podcast, and I feel like there's just so much more I could talk to you about, but thank you so much for coming and for changing my mind.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you so much.